Welcome back, operators, to the 4th episode of the Escape from Tarkov Field Guide. In this video, we'll talk about the Hideout, the main hangout for PMCs in between raids. We will also tell you about your stash, a part of the Hideout where you store all of the items and equipment you have obtained in raids. The first steps in this game are the most difficult and full of uncertainty. So we're going to give you some tips on what to take into the raid primarily. Let's get going. Welcome to your personal hideout. For now, it's an old bomb shelter clogged with debris and rubbish. But by making an effort, you can turn it into a full-fledged underground base with everything you need for a comfortable living. In the end, your hideout's not only going to look kind of tight, but it's also going to begin to generate you a lot of money. Well, let's get into the basics on how that works. Zones available for construction are displayed with a corresponding icon. Their description and the items required for construction can be seen in the zone window. You may need not only the usual construction items, but also the help of the traders. There are two types of zones: core and functional. Core zones are the foundation of your hideout. They do not give any bonuses whatsoever, but they must be built first, as they are critical for building and improving higher level zones. Core zones can include things like your ventilation system, illumination, and security. Now, functional zones, on the other hand, are much more interesting, and I'll go over them in more detail for you. These zones are important because each construction gives you unique possibilities and significantly improves the quality of life of not just your character, but you as the player as well. One of the most important improvements to the hideout is the workbench. It not only allows full customization of your weapons, but also gives you access to crafting weapons, ammunition, and electronic items. Rest space reduces the time it takes to remove negative status effects left on your PMC after a raid. The med station speeds up the recovery of your PMC after a raid and allows you to craft basic medical items early on. And down the line, powerful combat stimulants when it becomes more advanced. The lavatory. How could we live without it? However, in Tarkov, it's not exactly needed for its direct purpose, if you catch my drift. But while on the pot, you can magically craft armor, helmets, and other household items needed for quests and hideout upgrades. Just don't forget to wipe. The hideout even has space for a shooting range. Here you can try out a weapon from your stash, feel its recoil and suitability of the installed optics. But what's even better is the bullets will be returned to you after training, so you don't have to worry about wasting valuable ammo and can safely test the more rare and effective ammo types easily. In the world of Tarkov, there is no place for lazy slobs, so that's why you need to keep yourself in shape all the time. The good old gym will help you with this. By setting up a basic workout corner, you can improve your strength and endurance skills through exercise. Just be sure to follow safety precautions, or your back's gonna hurt. Let's talk about item production. To craft any item, you need the appropriate components and sometimes an auxiliary tool to boot. It's marked with a wrench icon and will disappear from the stash for the duration of the crafting, but will return upon its completion. Only one item can be produced per zone, and after the end of the crafting process, you must collect the finished item and your auxiliary tools in order to start a new job. Now, mentioning production, it is worth paying attention to the supply of electricity. You're not going to have to play as a professional electrician, but for the full functionality of the hideout, you're going to need a generator and fuel. The generator powers all zones, and without it, you can't start any productions. Now, if you run out of gas and the generator goes out while you're crafting, it's not going to stop it, but the time required to finish crafting will increase significantly, so keep your eye on it. And don't forget, your stash also has a zone in the hideout. It has several levels of upgrades, and its capacity increases with each level. Different game editions offer different levels of the stash at the start of the game. This way, you can get more space for your junk and save valuable resources for expanding the stash, and keeping it all safe and sound for tasks and other productions. The first time you open the character menu, you're going to find yourself on the Gear tab. This is where your PMC's inventory and hideout stash are located. To the left are the character slots. By dragging items, gear, and weapons into these slots, you equip the PMC for the raid. All items successfully taken out of the raid will still remain on your operator. On the right side of the screen is your main inventory. Items stored here can be used for trading, crafting, hideout upgrades, or missions. Any items bought from traders and quest rewards are placed in your stash. There's several useful tools and hotkeys for convenient stash management, and we'll tell you about them right here. Backpacks and chest rigs are technically storage containers. To save space, you can put all kinds of items in them or stack them inside of each other. In the future, you can also find or buy cases and crates, special containers in which you can put items of a certain type or, in some cases, can just store everything. To the left of the items are the category filters. Click on any category you're interested in and the selected items will be highlighted. The one-click auto-sorting function will eliminate clutter, organize your stash, and place items next to each other by category. On top will be ammo, then grenades, magazines, medicine, and so on. Pressing left control and the left mouse button on an item will move the item to a free space in the character's inventory and back. Left Alt plus left mouse button on an item will equip the item to the appropriate slot on the contractor's inventory. Using the delete key by default will delete the item. And using this key in a raid will quickly drop it from your inventory on the ground. By the way, you can use these shortcuts while in a raid to quickly move between your inventory and whatever container you're looting. The less time you spend in the inventory, the less time you're going to spend dead. Let's talk about your first raid. In your stash, you have a set of guns, ammo, various medical items, even something to eat. So what should you take with you on your first raid? We've collected for you the minimum set of equipment, which will allow a new player to get used to the game faster, all while avoiding upsetting deaths. The first and most important thing is what weapon you're going to use to defend your life in the region of Tarkov. Don't equip yourself with a ton of guns like a Terminator, it's only going to slow you down. But also take away valuable space for in-raid trophies. Remember, switching to your pistol is always faster than reloading. You should definitely pick a main gun and take the appropriate ammo for it. And in some cases, take a secondary if you're going to be sniping or maybe using a shotgun. Magazines should be placed in the chest rig or in your pockets if you have to. Take into account the appropriate ammo usage per raid. If you're going to jump into the thick of things in the fight for the most valuable loot, you should take some more magazines than normal. A good rule of thumb for most raids is 2 to 3 spare mags and a bunch of loose ammo for refilling said mags is a good thing to do when you're taking a breather. Armor is also important. There is not much in this world that brings more joy than realizing that the helmet you bought after long hesitation saved your life with a lucky ricochet. When choosing protection, you should consider the location and distance of the potential fight. No one forbids you to wear a heavy assault vest on woods, but in this case, you'll only become an easy target for the enemy sniper with your sluggishness. Apart from the rest of the equipment, it is worth mentioning the active headsets, or electronic ear pro as some of us call it. In a raid, this essential item will allow you to hear the enemy before they hear you, which will give you a critical advantage at first contact. A basic medicine kit is a must if you don't want to die from a couple of minor injuries. You should take bandages and tourniquets for stopping bleedings, painkillers, and of course, a first aid kit for replenishing health in your pockets and chest rig for quick access. If the loss of medicines at death hits your pocket too hard, you can hide them in your secure container where they'll be safe. Food and water is an important resource in the harsh conditions of a raid, but it's better to hide them in your stash and replenish your stats after a successful raid. However, don't hesitate to find food in the raid itself. There may still be some canned food in the bags and food crates, which will come in handy in the future. Let's gear up, operators. In a raid, you may need additional items for survival and effective combat. These can be grenades for cutting through ambushes, stimulants, surgical kits that can put a fighter back on his feet after critical wounds, and even a set of keys and key cards that open rooms with valuable loot. Before going in a raid, always make a plan of action and think about what additional equipment you're gonna need. In conclusion, in this episode you learned about the Hideout and its capabilities, as well as the knowledge you need to gear up your PMC for your first raid into the dangerous areas of the Norvingst region, where Tarkov is located. In the near future, we'll tell you about the next important component of the game, the traders. Cooperation with them will give you invaluable advantages and new opportunities, and completing their tasks, perhaps, will open the veil of secrecy about the ongoing events in Tarkov. This has been 41, and I'll catch you next time, operators.